And I first heard about the organizing at Powell's bookstore when we got a phone call. My coworker took a phone call from a Powell's employee who was interested in organizing, and she met with him and talked to him about the labor movement in Portland and which unions might be interested, and got him connected with talking to various unions. And she talked to him on and off through the process of choosing the ILWU. So that's how we first got connected. We felt like, so we feel as Jobs with Justice that we've been there from the start of the organizing campaign. And we got asked to help in some small ways prior to the election. We were doing meetings with politicians and other community leaders, asking them to help, asking them to sign letters to Michael Powell. I remember going down to Salem with William and meeting with some state representatives and asking them to write letters to Michael Powell, and making phone calls on that. And I think we did one rally with Local 5 prior to the election. Certainly we were very, very interested and very happy with the win, the victory. And then once the election was through, we were very involved in the contract campaign, both in continuing to build community pressure through more letters to Michael Powell, and through doing turnout for every demonstration that Local 5 engaged in during the course of the contract campaign. And there were a number, I think the kickoff of bargaining was the first one that we were part of. And then the first unfair labor practice, when the first unfair labor practice was filed and the first coordinated break time or 15-minute unfair labor practice strike happened. There was a rally then that we were part of. And of course the Valentine's Day action when Michael Powell and Larry Longshore got married in the street was really fun. It was the day of our annual meeting. And through, I can't remember exactly, but I think there was another action in April, and then of course all the work around May Day. And oh yeah, there was one action in April where everybody walked down and came to visit bargaining, and we were there as well. And certainly all the May Day activity. Most of our turnout for the May Day march was around getting to Powell's, and my personal involvement was being inside, one of the few people who made it inside before they locked the doors, and we had a little picnic and sang Solidarity Forever until the police came and took us out. It was fun. And then near the end of the contract campaign, in April, we started planning to do a Workers' Rights Board hearing on the situation at Powell's, and on June 13th, we did our Workers' Rights Board hearing, which was a great event, incredibly moving. 9 workers testified. The panel from the Workers' Rights Board was 7 community leaders, academics, religious community folks, a state representative, and a writer who heard the testimony and responded to it. And of course, the day of the hearing, Michael Powell called someone who was on the Workers' Rights Board but not part of the panel and asked for a meeting. And that was the first time he'd been willing to meet with anybody from the community, and people have been calling him and asking to meet with him for months. And so Diane Lind, who's the person he called, set up a meeting with some other elected officials, and Diane Rosenbaum, who was on our Workers' Rights Board panel, invited other panel members to come to that meeting, which happened near the beginning of July. And he said at that meeting that he knew any contract that was signed would have to include union security. And it was the first time he'd ever, as far as I knew, publicly been willing to say anything like that. And the next round of bargaining, things moved forward, and the next round of bargaining, the contract was signed. Now, Michael Powell knew that the support for the union within the workplace had built from winning the election by 6 votes to having 75% of the workforce participating in unfair labor practice strikes, and that he had no chance of succeeding in any decertification attempt. And he realized that with the workers solid and the community supporting the workers, he needed to sign a fair contract. And so we're really pleased that we got to help win that victory. We think it's really important for all the workers of Portland that the Powells workers won and got a fair contract. You know, I've lived in Portland all my life. My family's been in Oregon for 5 generations, and both my parents were librarians. So Powell's has had a special place in my heart, and I think that's true for a lot of people. And a union at Powell's means we know that this institution that we love has at least signed off on the idea of fairness and respect for workers in the workplace. And that's really important. And the struggle was a very public struggle, and I think it's very important for the labor movement that we won it. In the future, I'd love to see Local 5 go out and organize other young workers. I think that Local 5 has provided something of a bridge between a lot of young activists and the labor movement. And I think that the story of the Powells organizing provides a lot of hope for young workers who really need unions in their workplaces, and that it can make a huge difference if folks can figure out how to have the energy and put the resource into going out and organizing other workers. And the labor movement is at an interesting point right now. Certainly, we've got to take on and win the battles around corporate globalization over the next, decade, I guess, because conditions, wages and working conditions, and environmental standards and democracy are all going to be forced downward by the pressure of the way the global economy is moving ahead. And I think a lot of working people understand that. But without massive commitment to organizing, massive commitment to mobilizing our members, we aren't going to be able to win that battle or turn things around so that we're actually building power instead of losing it, which is what's happened in the labor movement over the last 20 or 30 years. And I've been involved in labor since I worked at the library when I was 20. So for 24 years I've been involved in labor activism. And I have to say that there's a lot more hope now than I saw in the 80s, both because a lot more people, I think, understand the challenges that are facing the labor movement. A few still don't. I mean, there's still people who don't understand that our power has been waning and that we need to take drastic action together to change that. So I think, but I do think a lot more people understand that used to understand what we're faced with, and a lot more people have some vision for a world that's different from the one that where we face this downward pressure on ourselves all the time.
No way, FTAA! No way, FTAA! No way, FTAA! No way, FTAA! No way, FTAA!
I think it's interesting that in 1999 we put lots and lots of energy into building for the mobilization in Seattle against the World Trade Organization, and we helped bring 6,000 people from Oregon up to Seattle, and it provided this incredible boost. As far as we know, we're the only organization that turned people out both for the labor march and for this peaceful, nonviolent civil disobedience. My coworker Nancy spent 5 days in jail in Seattle, and the result of doing that work, one of the results of doing that work was lots and lots of young energy coming into the struggles that we were taking on, including the Powells struggle. So when we looked at who came out to the rallies over the few months after November 30th, there were lots and lots of young people who were totally excited by that protest and who wanted to take that energy and put it back into their local community and their local struggle. What it meant for Jobs with Justice is over the last almost 2 years now, last 20 months, we've grown from 40 member organizations to 58. A lot of environmental organizations who would never have thought of having a connection with labor joined Jobs with Justice, as well as labor organizations who are really excited about the fight against corporate globalization. So I think all of those struggles are connected to each other. It was a really good period of time. Now, of course, we're faced with an incredible tragedy that happened on September 11th, and what that's going to mean for the labor movement and the work to oppose corporate globalization, because there's going to be a pull to unite in a really unthinking way behind not only fighting terrorism, but all sorts of policies that hurt workers and hurt civil liberties and hurt lots of other people.
This company has been willing to spend so much money, so much of its resources, so much people power fighting the workers here. And this has been going on forever, and let's hope that it stops soon, because Michael Powell's going to bring this company to its knees. He's going to destroy his own bookstore to fight the people that have